And what's fun is that as we were connecting before our interview, we both found out we're like probably within a half hour of each other in the
Yeah.
Colorado area. And that was really cool because I'm trying to make in person connections right now so that I can have other strong Christian business women in my life to speak into me so I can speak into them and we can really grow together and, referrals, networks, whatever it is. And so I just thought that was really icing on the top of the cake for today's talk because we're talking about in person events and how we can use them and leverage them to grow our businesses. But I know that a lot of what you talk about too is knowing yourself and knowing your brand, why your life story and core values really matter, especially before trying to make an impact through events or in business in general. Can you talk a little bit about that in the foundation?
For sure. Yeah. So I think that it's of utmost importance that you know who you are, because if you don't know who you are, you won't know who you're called to serve. And that's obviously a big problem when you're in business or you're feeling called to plan an event. If you don't know who you're going to serve, then what's the point? What is the
Mhm.
point, right? So clarity breeds confidence. So if you don't know who you are, you'll build a brand or event that just doesn't align, and people can feel that. You can't connect with others deeply if you're unclear or fragmented in your message or in your personal identity. So knowing who you are, knowing yourself helps you to lead with purpose instead of from a place of pressure. When you understand the why, you don't chase every trend, you stay anchored in who God has created you to be, right? Because you know who you are and who He has called you to uniquely serve. So that's why I just think it's of utmost importance to know who you are, to know what are your personal values? What is your belief system based in? What's your worldview? Like that stuff doesn't just happen because you grew up Christian or whatever the case, right? Like it does take some intentionality to go back and really I challenge people to do this in every season. Even if you've done the work before, go do the work again to make sure that you're continuing to operate in alignment with God's will for your life. And so just going back to him and asking, who am I? And more, what I actually love to ask him is, who have you created me to be? Right? And just really
Mm.
taking it from that creative perspective of like, God, you're the creator. And so if you are creative and I'm made in your image, then you've made me creative and you've made me to create. So what am I supposed to create and who am I supposed to create for? So, yeah, I
Mm.
just think it's so important when you're growing anything, when you're walking out any calling that he has on your life, whether it's in business or planning events.
Yeah, so true. It is so important to know like who we are, our foundation, our values, that we can align them with our business values and we can align them with what we do. But also, like you talked a little bit about knowing your person, knowing who it is, especially with in person events, because you need to be very clear on who you are serving in order for the event to be a success too.
Yeah.
Now, before we dive into events themselves, I know that you're really passionate about helping women feel seen and heard and worthy. Um, how does in person events create a space for that where maybe digital spaces often can't?
That's another great question. I believe that there is just something sacred about sitting across from someone, eye to eye, heart to heart, in person. There's just something that happens when you're able to just be fully present with someone. In person experiences allow for an opportunity for us to set aside the distractions, right? If you're talking to someone face to face, like how many of us have had that experience where you're talking to someone, they pick up their phone and they start texting, right?
Hmm.
And I think that when you curate a space with intention and people know why they're there and they know why you're there, you're able to, it's not even that you're able to, you want to put your phone down. You want to set the distractions aside and you want to be intentional with relationships that are blossoming in front of you. I've seen women walk into a room super guarded and unsure and leave in tears and leave with somebody with their arm around them, experiencing just a new sense of belonging. Like they almost look like an entirely different person because of what has happened within that room. And of course, that true transformation comes from God. But I've just witnessed so many lifelong friendships that have been formed. I've seen new business partnerships that have completely changed the trajectory of businesses happen, depending, obviously, again, on the intention of the event. And I do want to say that there is value in digital connections as well. Digital connections can inspire, but I believe that in person connections can transform. Like they really
Mm,
are immersive. You're there. There's something different about being somewhere else for a purpose and just surrendering to the fact that like you're with these people. God put you in this room, hopefully, right? You want to pray about every room that you go into for sure.
mhm.
But if he put you there, then he's got something incredible for you. And it might not even be through a speaker. It might be with him, right? It might be through a friendship or something else that he has for you.
I love that. And how you were talking about when you go into a room scared or you don't know anyone. I actually had that experience just this last month because I had a friend, a connection that I met online was like, oh my goodness, we do an in person thing in Colorado Springs. Come hang out with us. And so I thought, okay, I'll know somebody if I go. And she ended up not being able to make it. And so I was kind of like, do I still go? I was already out that way and it takes me a while to get out there. Like, I guess I'll go. And it's that nervous. I'm not an introvert. I'm an introvert, but I'm an introvert at first. Like it takes me a little while to warm up, I would say,
Yeah.
and then I can be the life of the party if you want me to. But I said, okay, there's a reason I was invited. There's a reason I'm supposed to go, so I will go. And it was a really great experience because it was one just the connection with other women, other business women, and also like we had a devotional and it really hit me and God really spoke to me there too. But one of the things that happened where I'm like, oh, I was supposed to go for this was that our table leader is actually moving to Nashville at the end of April. And, all of a sudden I go, oh my gosh, I know two other online business women who you need to meet up with. They're great Christian women and they would be perfect because they live in that area. So, in person connection there. And I just felt really like I just to go there to meet her. So you never know what's
Yes.
going to happen or transpire in an in person event.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's just different because you're in person.
Oh my gosh. I think since the COVID days, all I long for is in person things.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I have so much to say about that, but maybe we'll get into it a little bit later.
Yeah, I love it. So tell me, what makes in person events such a powerful tool for building trust and authority?
Okay. Well, the first thing is that trust is built in real time, right? It is usually built in real life as well. So when people see
Mm,
how you carry yourself, how you serve others, how you lead, they remember that more than a perfectly polished post on social media. That they're going to remember how you went up to them and asked, "How are you? What's your name? What do you do?" Right? They're going to remember that you took action to get to know them. You took action to see them or that you spoke something that connected with them. And it was like there's just again, there's something special and sacred that happens with in-person events. So it's not just about what you say at the event, it's how you make people feel. That's what builds that lasting loyalty and personal credibility. So if you show up with the intention to be led by service, if you are being led to lead an event, then you need to lead by service. And people notice that. They notice it without you having to say anything at all. They notice that there's something different about you. Whether it's a Christian event or it's a non Christian event, I've organized and planned several non Christian events, and I cannot tell you the number of people who have come up to me, even though I'm not on the stage. I'm a coordinator, so I'm running around like a chicken with its head cut off, right? But
mhm.
I've every event that I've ever planned, people have stopped me and they said, "I see Jesus in you." And I'm like, "That's strange. They're doing sound bowls in there. What do you mean you see Jesus in me?" Right? Like, this is not a Christian event, but it's God, right? Like, because my intention, I show up to those events with my intention being to serve whoever is in the room, right? So I
Mhm.
think that that is really what builds the most trust is just making sure that your intention is in check and then that you are being intentional to connect with people and to see them and to serve them.
Hmm. Something I was thinking about as you were talking is when we go to events, especially if we don't know anybody, what do we do? Do we just go sit there and hope someone talks to us, or do we take the initiative? Because for me, when I went to that in-person event just recently, I kind of actually thought about that before I went in, and I thought, well, a lot of times I do like to kind of sit back and whatnot, but
Yeah.
I'm going. A lot of other people are probably in the same position I am who don't know anybody. What if I took initiative 3 times? Like even just giving myself that number. Like, what if I took
Yes, a
initiative and
goal.
see what happens? Right? And I did, and it wasn't like it was that big of a deal. I was like, "Is this your first time, or have you been here before?" Right? Like, but
Yeah.
it starts that conversation, and then you really get to know people and start like warming up to the event itself.
Yes. I think that's so wise to go in if you are somebody who struggles with social anxiety or even just is like you're a little more shy when you walk into a room, even if you're an extrovert, just pre-planning that one question that you can ask anyone and everyone. My question, I'm a go deep real quick type of person. And so I always have to give people an out, but my question is always how is your heart? Not how are
Mm,
you, but how is your heart? But I think just like you had said, have you been here before? Whatever that question is, going into an in-person event with some kind of question, always good. I also always carry stickers with me. So if
ooh,
I meet women who they just seem like they would maybe be interested in sharing their life story, then my stickers on the back have a QR code to submit an application to be a guest on my Life Stories podcast. And so then that starts conversation, it builds trust, right? And it helps me to just have something that I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you this because one, I you don't need to come on, but God, I just feel prompted to give you this. But also, I am interested in getting to know you a little bit more. So if you're interested, like, let's connect.
I love that, and it's different. It's different than a business card. It helps you
Yeah,
kind of stand out a little bit too. Like, oh, that really meant a lot, So I love
yeah,
that. Let's talk a little bit about for those who have done most of their meetups or things online, because I mean, we are online business owners, so we are doing a lot of
yes,
things online, which, like you said, is great. It's great to connect with so many people that I wouldn't like. I have, just after this call, I have a coaching call with a client in New Zealand. I would never have
how
made that connection,
fun.
right? And so you get to go all over. But if you've ever only operated online and haven't really gotten into the in-person networking or in-person events, what would be the first step toward either hosting or being a part of an in-person event? What should we focus on?
So I want to take a step back and say, like, even if it's not your intention is not necessarily to host an event, but maybe you're just thinking about it.
Mhm.
Maybe there's some kind of stirring in your spirit, or you're thinking about going to a conference somewhere or something, but you haven't really connected locally. My advice is to start small and meaningful. Start with a coffee meetup, a local workshop, join a church community group, do something locally to get plugged in with people in person. Your personal connections matter as an online business owner, and especially this is kind of where I started thinking about COVID when I was processing just this
Mhm.
whole topic of like, okay, how does somebody who hasn't they've primarily been operating online. Like, how did they get into those rooms? And I just want to speak to the fact that, like, since COVID, it's really it was really easy to kind of get into this place where you're just like okay with the fact that you might talk to 10, 15 people a day, but they're all online,
Mhm.
right? And be like, okay, like I'm still making connections and doing what I need to do or serving my clients or whatever. But again, there's some things really important about being in person with people. We're created for community. And I don't necessarily think that we were just created for online community or FaceTimes. Although we live in a very resourceful world and we have these incredible blessings and privileges to be able to do things like this and connect with a ton of people, I also think that how God has intended us to build community starts with our personal surroundings.
Mm.
So, if you were like me though, after COVID, it felt a little unnatural to interact face to face. I was like, I don't even know if I know how to have small talk or do small talk. And and so it really did just come down to like making the decision that instead of walking on the treadmill, I'm going to go walk around my neighborhood. right? And I'm going to smile and say hi to my neighbors. I'm going to ask what their names are, right? It's really just being intentional with the people, the real human beings that are in your life, in small, meaningful ways each and every day. So that's what I would encourage anyone to start with is just get connected locally. If you are called to do an event, then I would say, first of all, you have to focus on why you're gathering, not just what you're doing. Not just all
Mm,
the fun stuff, not just the swag bags and the speakers and all the things that seem fun about planning an event, but you really need to focus on why, because having a super clear why is what will ultimately attract the right people to the event and will detract the people that aren't called to be in the room, or maybe you
mm,
don't even want in the room if we're being completely honest, right? So that's really, really, really important. Focus on that why and partner with others. If you're not ready to host an event all on your own, then partner with somebody. Start praying specifically for somebody else to come into your network, into your world, into relationship with you that also feels the call to do an event, to curate a space for other people. And then don't obsess over perfection. Do not obsess over every perfect little detail being in place before you start sharing about it. People crave presence, not polish. So they want to get in the room. If God is calling you to curate a room, whether it's a conference or a small group or a retreat or whatever it is, that there's a reason. It's because there's people that he wants you to serve on the other side of that step of obedience. So take messy action, my friends.
yeah, I love that. Don't crave polish. And, I feel like if you're going to be hosting a in-person event, because you're feeling called to it. And I think that
Exactly.
something we go, oh, it needs to be perfect. We need this ready before we start. We need this. But God never called the people who are ready. He always called those like with
No,
imperfections, right? And it's because he's like, no, now you have to trust me. You have to trust me for this to work out and for my plan to happen. You are just a tool to help me. I
exactly.
want
You
to
are the
use you.
vessel.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. That's
Mhm.
true. Like,
So
there's
true.
evidence of that all throughout scripture. You
Mhm.
think Moses felt called? No. Or do you think he felt equipped? I mean, he did feel called. He
Yeah.
did
No,
not feel
so
equipped though, right? Like
he
he was
didn't want
like,
to
I
do
don't know.
it.
I can't even talk straight. Right?
Mhm.
So it's like
Yep.
but if God calls you, he's already equipped you. He's already in the business of doing like he knows what he's doing. He created you.
Yeah. And I love how you
Yeah.
said, and then you surround yourself with the people who are equipped for what you need. Like Moses, he
Yeah,
equipped him with Aaron, who is very
exactly.
like good spoken, however you say that, right? Eloquent. And so he equipped him with the resources to be able to do the thing. And we just have to say yes to the thing and then,
Yeah.
do a lot of work, but it's not about us. Like the end product isn't about us. And I'm guessing, Danielle, because you've done a lot of events, I'm guessing that probably every one of them had something go wrong.
Every single one has something go wrong, and some have everything go wrong. Like that's just the truth of the events. So if you are, I am a recovering perfectionist myself. So I don't want to say if you are a perfectionist, events are not for you. What I do want to say to the perfectionist is that let it go or it's going to completely drive you crazy and you're going to hate the experience. And I would hate for you to hate that because I've been there. I've done that. I've planned something. I put so much into the details and I put so much of my creativity, of my vision into making sure that the details were taken care of. And when those things fell through, it really wrecked me, like, for a long time. I was like, "I don't ever want to be a part of an event again. I don't know what I'm doing. I suck." Like, all of the lies, right? All of the lies. And so that's where surrender and taking messy action, really prioritizing what the end goal is, what the why is. That's how I learned these things is by walking this. I didn't know going into it that I had to know what the why was before the who. That was something I learned because I prioritized the who and the how before the why. And it
Mm.
was not good. So yeah, every event, there's going to be
Yeah.
things that go wrong. But when you're surrendered to the fact that the Lord has called you and that you are just taking the next right step of obedience, it's fine. Like he's going to take care of it. It's his room anyway. It's not your room.
Yeah, it is his room. So what would you say are some common fears or mindset blocks that you've seen others face when stepping into a leadership role to host events?
The biggest one's imposter syndrome. Like who am I to lead? Who am I to create this conference, or who am I to run this business, or who am I to start this nonprofit, or who am I to be a ministry partner? And so that's a big one. Fear of failure. What if no one shows up? What if I do everything wrong? What if everything falls apart on the last day? What if? With events, it's mostly that what if no one shows up fear. And then comparison. Oh my gosh, this one's huge. This is what holds so many people back from not just hosting in-person events, but really from just living authentically and boldly the way that they've been called to live, because we think like, oh, she's already doing that, or she does it better than me, she's doing it better than I could ever do it. Oh my gosh, she has this, she has all the money, he has all the whatever it is, right? Like there's so many different things, and that's why I love that you're doing the summit, is because I know that social media can be a huge comparison trap.
Hmm.
And so
It
that's
sure
why it's
can.
important that we have boundaries. If we are gonna be on it at all, then we have to have boundaries with how we use it, because the truth is there's room for everyone at the table. If God calls me to do the exact same thing that he calls you to do, I can either compare and be angry and be rooted in bitterness and frustration, or I can collaborate and we can curate and we can multiply the intended impact of our individual callings. And that's
Amen.
hugely what I believe in. I'm like,
Mhm.
I've always kind of been that person who's like, "Oh, we showed up in the same shirt. How cool. Let's take a picture together." But I'm so grateful that God has made me that way, because now in adulthood, I'm able to see somebody doing something very similar and be like, "Oh my gosh, how can we be a power partner?" Maybe at some point I have too many clients, or not enough clients and they have too many, and so we're able to still serve the people. We're able to serve them well. Or maybe there's a client that's a great fit for someone else, but they came to me, and so then I'm able to refer. There is so much beauty in collaboration. And so all of that to say, the way through these mindset blocks is truly obedience. Like I said, God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. You overcome by moving forward scared, staying
Mm.
in prayer, and staying rooted in service and not self. It's not about you. It's not your room. It's not you as this leader on a pedestal, right? Our job is, I just heard this in church a couple weeks ago. Our job as leaders is not to stand up and be above the people who are below. Our job is to help pull people up onto the pedestal. Like that is our job as leaders. Your hand, if you're going to be on a pedestal, your hand better be out. Because if it's not, then there's a lot of darkness and there's a lot of comparison and fear of failure and imposter syndrome that's just going to wreak havoc in your life and in your mental health and in your nervous system and in all the different ways. So
Mhm.
just surrender to the fact that you might not know how to move forward. You might not know how to step into this leadership role perfectly. But if God has made it clear that he wants you to do it, one, don't try to pass the call. I've tried it, it doesn't work. But two, just you're going to be scared. That's why you need a savior. You need somebody who can wrap his arms around you and be like, I got you. You might be scared, but you're still going to do this thing because I called you to do it. And so you just keep going forward, knowing that it's not about you, it's for someone else. That always
Mhm.
motivates me, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I love if when we take our eyes off ourselves and we're like, it's not about me, it puts it all into perspective and it makes it actually a lot easier and
Yeah.
easier to climb out of that comparison and all the things. And I love how you were talking about like the servant led leadership and that, our eyes should be on what is in it for the people who are here, who are coming, who I'm praying for. And you talk a lot about like spirit led leadership. So I'd love if there's any other thoughts that you have on that. What does that look like, especially in a world that prioritizes hustle over heart? I do believe that relationships come before the results. Like those are so
Mhm.
important. So what does that mean in spirit led leadership?
So, spirit led leadership is based in long obedience, not long periods of grind and hustle, right? So that's really where it roots from is a long history of walking out whatever the call is on God's life, whether it's in your personal life or it's in your professional life, whatever it is. I think spirit led leadership comes from you just continuing to move forward scared and take the next right step. It means strategizing with God and ultimately trusting Him when nothing makes sense. It means serving the people He brought into the room, not just showing off in front of them because the world often measures success by speed or the amount of money we have or how quickly we can get things done, right? But the kingdom measures success by stewardship and stewarding things well. We steward things well by being obedient. So
Mhm.
when that is your worldview, that's your perspective, and you're rooted in the fact that it's not about you, that is spirit led leadership.
I really love that. You know, something I was thinking about, me being off social, I don't care how many followers I have. I felt like that was a
Mhm.
vanity metric for me. Oh, I got another one. Ooh, I got another like. I got this, you know? And then also I have a podcast. So no one really can tell like how well my podcast is doing. Like they don't see all my downloads or anything like that. And that to me has been really helpful to take it off of myself and be like, I'm doing this for God's glory. I'm doing this to impact the one person I need to impact today. And so I think that sometimes we get into a hole when we're on social too, because we're like, oh, success is in how many followers I have. Well, that's not success at all. Success is in, are am I being obedient to what God called me to do next?
Yes. No, for sure. It very much is all about that like kingdom impact.
Hmm. For sure. So I'm curious, how have you personally seen God move through your in person events?
Oh my gosh. I've seen him do so many different things. And even in the like I said, even in the events that like he hasn't even necessarily been invited into by the host,
Hmm.
I invite him in. Newsflash to my clients, but I invite God into everywhere I go. So I've seen him do some pretty incredible things though. I've seen him break down walls of shame, doubt, isolation, so many stories of things that miracles that I could have never scripted. Some of my favorites come from like one-on-one prayer moments where I'll just go to someone who might be I can see their eyes welling up with tears and I'm like, "Hey, do you want to step outside for a minute? Like, can I help? Like, is there something I can do?" And then we end up praying and all of these old lies come up and we're able to just allow the Holy Spirit to fill them and replace those lies with the truth. I've seen, oh my gosh, I've just seen so many true transformations, right? Like, and it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with like God working even through these really strange ways, with the ways that I could never even put into fully into words, like for me to like express and translate the power of what has happened in these rooms. I'm like, okay, this is like one of the it's hard for me to answer this question, to be honest, because like there's just so
So
many
much.
stories that I'm like, I don't even know where to land. It's just there are hundreds and hundreds of people who have had lives changed in rooms that are curated for a certain intention. So I really do believe that in-person events, when hosted well, can curate a sacred atmosphere where heaven meets earth in a tangible way, where people can lay their worries down at the door. They can know that they are safe. They can know they are wanted and seen in the present moment, right? That's what's so cool about in-person event is like it kind of
Mhm.
forces you to be present where people can feel known, they can be led into an encounter with God. This is our intention for our Heart Soul Strength event in November, which the whole end intention, end goal is for us to be vessels, to be the hands and feet of God's call for this ministry, for his kingdom leaders, his females that he has called into leadership roles in business and ministry so that he can have a encounter with them and true transformation can occur. Heart level, soul level transformation can occur and he can increase their strength. We can put the best speakers in the world in their room, but if God's presence isn't there, it's going to be really hard for the individual leaders or the collective spirit of God to transform in those sacred ways. And so although I've seen transformation happen in one-on-one moments and non-Christian events in the atmosphere where God is the center, he is the intention. We're excited to see what he does with the collective transformation of those in the room.
So, so good. So I know we could go on, I mean, we could talk about all the different types of conferences
So
and
many
in-person
things.
events. I mean, there's so much we can get into. We talk a lot about like just getting in person at an event or even hosting, but it can look like, just an in-person meetup in your community.
That's
It
right.
can look like networking events. It can look like a one-day conference. It could be a full out conference, with thousands of people if you wanted, but it can also start very small. So, as we're kind of winding down, I'd love to hear for anyone listening who feels kind of called to host a gathering, no matter what size or what it looks like, but kind of feels overwhelmed. What wisdom or tips do you have for that person?
So, first, don't overcomplicate what God has made simple. If he has spoken a word to you, then you need to trust that word. You don't need all the bells and whistles. You just need to take that next right step of obedience. Start with prayer. If this is something that he's stirring in your spirit, then start with prayer. Lord, who do you want me to gather? And what do you want them to walk away with? Why do you want me to gather them? What is your heart for them? Right? And
Mm,
then just take one step. Send the invite, book the room, trust that God will carry out what he has called you to do to completion. But remember that his version of completion, it might be very different than your version of completion. If he's called you to do it and and you're walking in obedience, he's going to be faithful to complete the work he has called you to do. But it might not look like a perfectly curated event. That's okay. There's still purpose in that. He's still completing his intent, his heart for what he's called you to do. So it just all goes back to it not being about perfection, it being about presence, about walking in the call that he has for your individual life faithfully.
mm.
Scared, however you need to walk it out. Invite God into that and don't overcomplicate what he's telling you to do.